Western Spring Television. Ours it is.
ẹ ṣeun gbogbo èèyàn wa tẹ́tù darapọ̀ mọ́ wa lórí àkọ́tún ètò ojú ẹlẹ́rìí. Ojú ẹlẹ́rìí ló ń dé sí ojú ìwòran yín láti Western Spring Television. Ìkànnì àádọ́wà channel 190 láwà ní orí Star Times DTT ní ìpínlẹ̀ Ọ̀ṣun. Ẹ ṣeun tẹ́tù darapọ̀ mọ́ mi ní ọjọ́ tòní. Ẹ̀yin tẹ́ bá ń wò wá fún ìgbà àkọ́kọ́ tẹ́ ń wò pé kí la máa ń ṣe lórí ètò ojú ẹlẹ́rìí, kí la máa ń mú wá ní gbogbo ọjọ́ mẹ́jọ. Kò sóhun méjì tá máa ń ṣe, kò sóhun méjì tá máa ń mú wá ju ohun tó bá ń jẹ aráàlú níyà, ohun tó bá ń ní àwọn èèyàn lára, ohun tó bá ń jẹ́ kí aráàlú ó mọ rí pọ̀npọ̀nà yàn ládùúgbò wọn, ní ìlú wọn, lágbègbè wọn, nípínlẹ̀ wọn, kódà lórílẹ̀‐èdè tẹ́ bá wà. Kò síbi tọ́wọ́jẹ́ ìrìn wo òde, òun lọ̀rọ̀ ojú ẹlẹ́rìí. Ohun tẹ́yin ó bá wa ṣe láti lè jẹ́ kí àwọn aláṣẹ tẹ́ fẹ́ kí wọ́n mọ ìyà tó ń jẹ yín, tẹ́ fẹ́ kí wọ́n gbọ́ ariwo yín ó mọ̀ ni pé ẹ bá wa mú fóònù yín hùn, ẹ̀rọ ìbánisọ̀rọ̀ yín ẹ mú lọ síbi tí ẹ bá fẹ́ káwọn aláṣẹ orí, bóyá nípa ojú ọ̀nà ni, bóyá nípa omi ẹ̀rọ ni, bóyá nípa iná ọba ni. Ẹ mú fóònù yín lọ agbègbè tí yà ń jẹ tàbí tó ń rí ìpèníjà kan àbómi. Ẹ gbé báyìí, ẹ dàbù rẹ̀ ló ń dídàbù. Bẹ́ bá ti dàbù rẹ̀, ẹ ya àwòrán yín kọ́ mọ́lẹ̀ ketekete. Ọwọ́ yín ò gbọdọ̀ gbọ̀n. Bẹ́ bá ti yà á kó mọ̀ ju bí ìṣẹ́jú méjì àbí mẹ́ta, ẹ fi ṣọwọ́ sí wa ní orí WhatsApp. Bàbá ti rí àwòrán fọ́tò àbáwòrán fídíò yín kó tó di ọjọ́ ajé. Àwa náà ó gbé jáde fún àwọn aláṣẹ tẹ́ fẹ́ kí wọ́n fi ojú rí nǹkan tẹ́ ń là kọjá, ohun tó ń jẹ yín níyà. Ní àdúgbò tẹ́ wà, níbi tẹ́ wà, mo kí yín o, Adéyẹmí Ọlábọ̀dé lórúkọ tèmi ń jẹ́. Yàtọ̀ fún pé ojú ẹlẹ́rìí máa ń wáyé lórí móhùnmáwòrán ti Western Spring Television, ìkànnì àádọ́wà channel 190 lórí Star Times DTT. Bákan náà lẹ́tún lè máa wò wá lórí ìtàkùn ayélujára ní orí YouTube. Ẹ tẹ Western Spring Television. Kájọ mọ́ bára wa rìn, kájọ mọ́ nǹkan tó ń lọ lórí ìkànnì yìí. Ẹ ṣeun tẹ́ darapọ̀ mọ́ wa ní ọjọ́ tòní. Àwọn fọ́nrán ti pọ̀ tí wọ́n ti fi ṣọwọ́ sí wa lórí ètò ojú ẹlẹ́rìí lọ́jọ́ tòní. Ibi àkọ́kọ́ tí wọ́n ti fi àwòrán ṣọwọ́ sí wa, òun náà ni agbègbè Kọjú Foam. Agbègbè Kọjú Foam nípa ojú ọ̀nà tó ń fẹ́ àmójútó. Ẹni yìí fi fọ́nrán àwòrán ìṣọwọ́ sí wa. Wọ́n ní fọ́nrán tí ẹ̀ ń wò yìí ni fọ́nrán ojú ọ̀nà wa láti Kọjú Foam ní ìlú Òṣogbo. Ẹ jọ̀wọ́ a bẹ̀ gómìnà láti ṣe àánú wa lórí ojú ọ̀nà wa. Ipò tí ọ̀nà yìí wà ó burú jáì. Ipò tí ọ̀nà yìí wà ó ń fa ìfàsẹ́yìn fún àdúgbò yìí. Ipò tí ọ̀nà yìí wà, wọ́n ní ó ń mí àwọn èèyàn sínú ewu omíyalé àgbàrá ya ṣọ́ọ̀bù nítorí àìsí àmójútó fún etí odò, àbí ká sọ pé àìsí àmójútó tó péye fún ojú odò tí ẹ ń wò tómi ń gba agbègbè rẹ̀ kọjá yìí. Wọ́n ní àwọn bẹ̀ gómìnà tọ̀. Àjẹ́ pé táwọn onímọ̀ ẹ̀rọ bá rí bẹ̀hùn, àwọn ni ó sọ bóyá afárá ni wọ́n nílò àbí kòtò ìdáminù tá a mọ̀ sí culvert tó fẹ̀jú dáadáa láti lè jẹ́ kí omi ó mọ́ lọ, omi ó mọ́ lọ yàbá àwọn èèyàn tó wà lágbègbè náà. Ẹ̀yin aláṣẹ ìjọba tẹ́ bá fẹ́ rí ibi tí ẹ̀ ń wò lójú ìwòran yìí, ó wà ní agbègbè Kọjú Foam. Wọ́n ní ìlú Òṣogbo ló wà ní agbègbè náà. Wọ́n lójú ọ̀nà náà ó mẹ́ẹ̀ lọ́pọ̀lọpọ̀. Ìyá wa Mrs. Adeniji Bukola Margaret ni wọ́n fi àwòrán ìṣọwọ́ sí wa láti Kọjú Foam ní ìlú Òṣogbo ní àyín. Ẹ jẹ́ á kúrò níbẹ̀. Ẹ jẹ́ kí a tún lọ sí ibòmíì tí wọ́n ti fi àwòrán ṣọwọ́ sí wa lórí ètò ojú ẹlẹ́rìí. Ọ̀rọ̀ nípa ojútò àgbàrá tó fẹ́ àmójútó láti odò Lákàtà ní ìlú Ẹ̀rìn Ọ̀ṣun. Ibẹ̀ náà ti fi àwòrán ìṣọwọ́. Òun náà lẹ́ ń wò ní ojú móhùnmáwòrán yìí. Bá wa gba àwòrán ń báhùn. Ẹ dákun. Ẹni yìí wọ́n kọ àtẹ̀jíṣẹ́, wọn ní Mr. Speaker ẹ kú iṣẹ́ o. Mo mọrírì ìgbésẹ̀ yín. Ẹ jọ̀wọ́ mo nílò láti fi tó yín létí láti gbàdégbà nípa ìṣòro wa, ìṣòro omíyalé àgbàrá ya ṣọ́ọ̀bù lágbègbè odò Lákàtà ní ìlú Ẹ̀rìn Ọ̀ṣun. Ṣé Lákàtà ni àbí Lákàtà? Ẹ má bínú o, agbègbè Lákàtà ní Ẹ̀rìn Ọ̀ṣun. Wọ́n ní ó ti ṣe tó bí ọ̀sẹ̀ kan sẹ́yìn báyìí tí òjò alágbára kan rọ̀, òjò àrọ̀ọ̀rọ̀dá tó yọrí sí ẹ̀kún omi, ìyẹn omíyalé ní ìlú Ẹ̀rìn Ọ̀ṣun. Wọ́n ní ó rọ̀ ní ọjọ́ 26 oṣù kẹwàá tá a lò tán yìí ọdún 2024. Wọ́n ní ó jẹ́ òjò tó bá àyàn lọ́kàn jẹ́. Wọ́n ní ó sì jẹ́ kí akùdé kó dé bá àwọn nǹkan tí wọ́n ń lò lágbègbè yìí. Wọ́n ní òjò yìí ó ti ba odò Lákàtà jẹ́. Wọ́n ní àwọn kò lè kọjá lásìkò tí òjò bá ń rọ̀. Wọ́n ní àwọn ilé wọn gan tó wà lẹ́gbẹ̀ẹ́, wọ́n ní ó ti mú kí ìdíwọ́ dé bá wọn. Wọ́n láwọn ń bẹ àwọn aláṣẹ ìjọba kí wọ́n mọ ìṣòro wọn ní Ẹ̀rìn Ọ̀ṣun, kí wọ́n wá ràn wọ́n lọ́wọ́ láti bá wọn ṣe ojútò ibi tí àgbàrá ó mọ̀ gbà, ìyẹn ojútò àgbàrá. Wọ́n ní àwòrán ibẹ̀ náà lẹ́ ń wò yìí láti ọ̀dọ̀ Alábẹ́léwé láti Ẹ̀rìn Ọ̀ṣun Lákàtà. Ibẹ̀ náà ti fi àwòrán ìṣọwọ́ sí wa ní ọjọ́ tòní. Ẹ jẹ́ ká wá lọ sí agbègbè míì ní orí ètò Ojú Ẹlẹ́rìí. Ojú ọ̀nà tẹ́ fẹ́ wò yìí ni ojú ọ̀nà tó ń fi àmójútó ìkóríta Biket sí Ọ̀tà Ẹfun. Ibẹ̀ lẹ fẹ́ wò lójú ìwòran yìí. Ẹ̀yin náà wo nǹkan tí wọ́n fi ṣọwọ́ sí wa o. Ẹ̀yin rí agbègbè yìí bó ṣe rí. Ẹ rí pé bí ìgbà jẹ́ pé àti ọlọ́mọ bọ̀ ó ti di dandan kò ní fún àwọn tó gbé agbègbè yìí látàrí ojú ọ̀nà wọn tí ò já geere. Wọ́n ní ojú ọ̀nà ń fi àmójútó kí wọ́n wo agbègbè ìkóríta Biket lọ sí ọjà tí wọ́n ná ní Ọ̀tà Ẹfun. Ẹni tó fi ṣọwọ́ ni Abdulkabir Lówólò láti junction lọ sí Ọ̀tà Ẹfun. Ibẹ̀ agbègbè tẹ́ wò ojú ìwòran yìí ó jẹ́ bó ṣe jẹ́ látọ̀dọ̀ ẹni tó fi ṣọwọ́ sí wa. Ẹ já kúrò níbẹ̀ ká lọ sí ibòmíì lórí ètò Ojú Ẹlẹ́rìí. Agbègbè tẹ́ fẹ́ wò yìí ni agbègbè àbí ká sọ pé àwọn agbègbè tó nílò ojú ọ̀nà. Ẹ máa gbọ́ àwọn agbègbè náà o. Èkíní Olúdé, ìkejì Ilẹ̀ Ìdáǹdè, ìkẹta Ọ̀bà, ọ̀nà Ọ̀bà òun lẹ̀ ń wò yìí. Ojú ọ̀nà Ọ̀bà lẹ̀ ń wò ní ojú ìwòran yìí. Ojú ọ̀nà Olúdé, Ilẹ̀ Ìdáǹdè, ọ̀nà Ọ̀bà. Ibi tẹ́ ń wò yìí ó wà nípò tó bani lọ́kàn jẹ́. Tójò bá ti lè rọ̀ báyìí, ìnira ló máa ń kojú àwọn tó ní ilé, àwọn tó jẹ́ pé kò sójúmọ́ kan ju ayé kán mọ́ kọjá ní ojú ọ̀nà yìí. Wọ́n láwọn rawọ́ ẹ̀bẹ̀ sí ìjọba ìpínlẹ̀ Ọ̀ṣun. Wọ́n láwọn ń ké gbàjarè sí gómìnà Sẹ́nitọ̀ Adémọ́lá Nurudeen Jackson Adeleke láti gbà wọ́n kalẹ̀ o, kán bá wọn wá ojútùú sí ọ̀rọ̀ ojú ọ̀nà wọn, kán lè bá wọn ṣe ojú ọ̀nà ní Olúdé, Ilẹ̀ Ìdáǹdè, Old Ọba Road ní ìlú Òṣogbo gẹ́gẹ́ bí wọ́n ṣe fi àtẹ̀jíṣẹ́ yẹn ṣọwọ́. Wọ́n ní àwọn agbègbè tí wọ́n mẹ́nu bà yìí, wọ́n ní wọ́n wà níjọba ìbílẹ̀ Ọlọ́rundá, ìyẹn Ọlọ́rundá local government. Ibẹ̀ ni agbègbè tẹ́ ń wò lójú ìwòran yìí wà. Ẹ já kúrò níbẹ̀. Ibòmíì tá a tún fẹ́ lọ lórí ètò Ojú Ẹlẹ́rìí, òun náà ni iléèwé tó ń fẹ́ àmójútó. Iléèwé tó ń fẹ́ àmójútó Akínọ̀run Grammar School ni wọ́n ti fi àtẹ̀jíṣẹ́ ìṣọwọ́ gẹ́gẹ́ bí nǹkan tí wọ́n kọ ní iléèwé Akínọ̀run Grammar School. Wọ́n ní lọ́wọ́lọ́wọ́ yìí wọ́n ní ọ̀rọ̀ náà ti dójú ọ̀gbagadè. Wọ́n ní ìṣèjọba ọ̀gbẹ́ni Rauf Arẹ́gbẹ́ṣọlá ló kọ́ iléèwé pẹ̀lú ẹgbẹ̀lẹ́gbẹ̀ owó kó lè wúlò. Wọ́n ní àmọ́ ṣá iléèwé yìí ibẹ̀ ni àwọn ọmọ olú ọmọ ìlú Ìkìrun, àwọn tó jẹ́ èèkàn lọ́kùnrin lóbìnrin ní ìlú Ìkìrun àtàyíká rẹ̀ ti kọ́ ẹ̀kọ́ tó yè kooro. Wọ́n ní ó ti wá ń di ibi tó bani lọ́kàn jẹ́. Wọ́n ló ti ń di ibi tó mú ẹ̀dùn ọkàn báni. Wọ́n ní gbogbo àwọn yàrá ìkàwé ní ò sí nípò tó dáa mọ́. Wọ́n ní àwọn òrùlé gbọ̀ngàn wọn ìyẹn all roof. Òun náà lẹ́yìn náà ń wò ní ojú ìwòran yín o. Ẹ rí gbogbo gíláàsì wọn, ẹ wo gbogbo fèrèsé wọn, ẹ wo bó ti fẹ́ yọ tán gẹ́gẹ́ bí nǹkan tí wọ́n fi ṣọwọ́ sí wa. Fọ́nrán òrùlé wọn ẹ mọ̀ wò nínú àwọn àwòrán tó ń lọ lọ́wọ́ yìí. Òun lẹ̀ ń wò yìí. Fọ́nrán òrùlé wọn leléyìí o. Ẹ rí bó ṣe rí. Iléèwé tí wọ́n ná ẹgbẹ̀lẹ́gbẹ̀ mílíọ̀nù sí ní ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ ọdún sẹ́yìn ní ìpínlẹ̀ Ọ̀ṣun. Òun lẹ̀ ń wò yìí o. Wọ́n ké sí gómìnà ìpínlẹ̀ yìí lọ́wọ́lọ́wọ́, ìyẹn gómìnà Adémọ́lá Adélékè láti gbà wọ́n kalẹ̀ kán bá wọn ṣe iléèwé Akínọ̀run Grammar School wọ́n ké sí iléeṣẹ́ fún ètò ẹ̀kọ́ ní ìpínlẹ̀ Ọ̀ṣun ìyẹn Ministry of Education kán bá wọn wá nǹkan àmúṣà lóògùn lórí Akínọ̀run Grammar School. Wọ́n ní Ìkìrun àgbèwà Ọ̀ṣun adára. Ọ̀gbẹ́ni Adébáyọ̀ Láwálé lórúkọ gbogbo àwọn ọmọ bíbí ìlú Ìkìrun tí ọ̀rọ̀ yìí kàn, àwọn ni wọ́n ń rawọ́ ẹ̀bẹ̀ tí wọ́n ń ké gbàjarè sí àwọn aláṣẹ ìjọba. Ẹ wá jẹ́ ká lọ sí òdì kejì, tá a bá lọ tá a bá dé. Ètò yín ètò wa Ojú Ẹlẹ́rìí yóò tẹ̀síwájú níkànnì Western Spring Television. Àmbọ̀.
Àbújá ni olú ìlú orílẹ̀-èdè Nàìjíríà lọ́wọ́lọ́wọ́. Ọjọ́ 12 oṣù 12 ọdún 1991 ni wọ́n gbé ibùjókòó agbára Nàìjíríà kúrò nílùú Èkó lọ sílùú Àbújá lásìkò ìṣèjọba ológun ọ̀gágun fẹ̀yìntì Ibrahim Babangida. Ìlú Àbújá ní ìlú kẹjọ tí èrò pọ̀ sí jùlọ nílẹ̀ Nàìjíríà, ó sì jẹ́ ìlú olódi tó wà ní àárín gbùngbùn. Gbogbo àwọn ilé-iṣẹ́ àti àjọ ìjọba kọ̀ọ̀kan ló ní olú ọ́fíìsì wọn nílùú Àbújá, gẹ́gẹ́ bó ṣe jẹ́ pé ibẹ̀ gan ni ibùjókòó agbára ìṣàkóso ilẹ̀ Nàìjíríà. Lọ́dún 2003 ni àjọ Commonwealth gbé ìpàdé wọn wá síbẹ̀. Bẹ́ẹ̀ sì ni àjọ olókoòwò nílẹ̀ adúláwọ̀ ṣe lọ́dún 2014. Kódà lọ́dún 2016 àjọ tó ń rí sí ọ̀rọ̀ àwọn ọmọdé ìyẹn UNESCO gbà á gẹ́gẹ́ bí ibùdó ìkẹ́kọ̀ọ́ wọn. Díẹ̀ lára àwọn ibùdó tó gbajúgbajà nílùú Àbújá ni àpáta agbára Aso Rock, ilé aṣòfin àpapọ̀, ilé aṣojúṣòfin ilẹ̀ yìí, àpáta Zuma Rock, Millennium Park, báńkì àpapọ̀ ilẹ̀ Nàìjíríà CBN, mọ́ṣáláṣí àpapọ̀ àti ibùdó ilé ìjọsìn àpapọ̀ àwọn Kìrìsìtẹ́nì. Ẹkùn ìdìbò 6 ló wà nílùú Àbújá: Abaji, Buhari, Gwagwalada, Kuje, Kwali àti Abuja Municipal. Kílìṣì tó jẹ́ ohun ìpanu tí wọ́n fi ẹran pèsè ló jẹ́ oúnjẹ tó wọ́pọ̀ tí gbogbo èèyàn sì nífẹ̀ẹ́ sí nílùú Àbújá. Ó jẹ́ ibùdó ìsinmi fún ọ̀pọ̀ àwọn arìnrìn-àjò láti ẹkùn kọ̀ọ̀kan nílẹ̀ Nàìjíríà nítorí pé àárín gbùngbùn ló wà. Ìlú Àbújá rèé o, ibùdó agbára ìṣàkóso ilẹ̀ Nàìjíríà, ògo ilẹ̀ adúláwọ̀. New York nílùú ńlá tó tóbi jù nílẹ̀ Amẹ́ríkà. Kódà iye ènìyàn tó wà níbẹ̀ ló fi ìdá méjì ju ti ìlú Los Angeles lọ. Ó jẹ́ ibùdó fún oríṣiríṣi àṣà, ìgbafẹ́, iṣẹ́ ọnà, ìmọ̀ ẹ̀rọ, òṣèlú, ẹ̀kọ́, ọrọ̀ ajé, kódà tó fi máa rẹ́ ìdárayá. New York yìí ló gbàlejò ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ olùdókòwò kárí ayé tó sì fẹsẹ̀ múlẹ̀ gidi gan ni. Ìdí nìyí tí àwọn kan fi máa ń pè é ní olú ìlú orílẹ̀-èdè àgbáyé. Ohun ìdámọ̀ tó gbajúgbajà jù ní New York ní ère òmìnira Statue of Liberty, eléyìí tó ń ṣàfihàn bí ìlú náà ṣe fàyè gba onílé àtàlejò. Bẹ́ẹ̀ sì ni afárá Brooklyn kò lẹ́gbẹ́. Ó kéré tán ẹgbẹ̀rin ní oríṣi èdè tí wọ́n ń sọ ní New York. Èyí ló sì fa bí wọ́n ṣe máa ń sọ pé gbogbo èdè àgbáyé ló pé sílùú New York. Ní nǹkan ọdún 1624 ni àwọn èèyàn ẹ̀yà Dutch tẹ̀dó sí ibi tó ń jẹ́ New York báyìí. Amsterdam ni wọ́n ń pè é tẹ́lẹ̀ nígbà náà, àmọ́ lọ́dún 1664 ni wọ́n yí padà sí New York lẹ́yìn tí ọba King Charles kejì tilẹ̀ Gẹ̀ẹ́sì fún arákùnrin rẹ̀ ní ilẹ̀ ìyẹn Duke of York. Láti ọdún 1785 ló ti wá di olú ìlú ilẹ̀ Amẹ́ríkà títí di òní olónìí. Ó jẹ́ ìlú ńlá tó kún fún ọ̀pọ̀ iṣẹ́ ọnà àti ibùdó iṣẹ́ àtinúdá oríṣiríṣi fún gbogbo ìran ọmọnìyàn. Ìlú New York lórílẹ̀-èdè Amẹ́ríkà.
Ẹ ṣeun tẹ́ ṣe wà pẹ̀lú wa. Ẹ káàbọ̀ padà sórí ètò Ojú Ẹlẹ́rìí ìkànnì Western Spring Television ló ti ń dé sí ojú ìwòran yín. Ẹ ṣeun. Ẹ má gbàgbé bí a ṣe ń ṣe lọ́wọ́ tẹ́ ń wò wá lórí móhùnmáwòrán. Ẹ lè máa darapọ̀ mọ́ wa lórí ẹ̀rọ ayélujára lórí YouTube. Ẹ tẹ Western Spring Television. Ẹ má wá gbàgbé láti bá wa dọ̀rẹ́, ẹ tẹ̀lé wa, ẹ bá wa rìn kájọ máa fara kínra ní orí ẹ̀rọ ayélujára bákan náà. Ní orí ìtàkùn ìbánidọ́rẹ̀ẹ́ Facebook, ẹ tẹ Western Spring Television. Ní orí X tá a mọ̀ sí Twitter tẹ́lẹ̀ rí, ẹ tẹ Western Spring Television. Òun náà lẹ́tẹ̀ o tẹ́ fi wá wa rí ní orí Instagram. Ẹ ṣeun tí àjọ ń bá ètò náà bọ̀. ó yá pápápá ká sáré lọ sí orí àwọn àwòrán tí àwọn èèyàn ti fi ṣọwọ́ sí wa torí àwọn tó bá ṣẹ̀ṣẹ̀ ń tan móhùnmáwòrán tán wò pé àwọn bó làwọn èèyàn ti ké gbàjarè àwọn bó làwọn èèyàn ti fi àwòrán ṣọwọ́ lórí ètò Ojú Ẹlẹ́rìí àwọn bó ni wọ́n ti ké sí ìjọba láti wá nǹkan mú sàlógún lórí agbègbè wọn. Ibi àkọ́kọ́ tá a kọ́kọ́ lọ òun náà ni agbègbè Kọjú Fòm òun lẹ́ ń wò yìí o àgbàrá òjò ló hàn wọ́n lè mọ̀ àmọ́ ẹ pé tídò níbi tá à ń sọ yìí ṣùgbọ́n ó ń fẹ́ àmójútó ẹni tó fi àwòrán ìṣọwọ́ sí wa náà ni abilékọ Adéníjì Bùkọ́lá Margaret wọ́n ní kí wọ́n ràn wọ́n lọ́wọ́ o wọ́n ní láti Kọjú Fòm Òṣogbo wọ́n láwọn bẹ̀ gómìnà ìpínlẹ̀ Ọ̀ṣun láti ṣàánú wọn ní ojú ọ̀nà yìí wọ́n ní kí àwọn náà kí wọ́n lè kọrin reke ìjọba tó wà lórí àlééfà torí ìyà àti ìnira tí omi yìí tó ń mú bá wọn ló kúrò ní kèrèmí o bíbí ìṣe wà nǹkan tẹ́mi rò wípé wọ́n ń béèrè ni pé kí ìjọba bá wọn fẹ́ kí wọ́n wá ṣe ojú ọ̀nà tí ó mọ gbà gerege tí ò ní lọ mọ́ ṣe ṣùtá fún àwọn tó wà lágbègbè yìí ó jẹ́ ohun tí wọ́n kọ ohun tí wọ́n fi ṣọwọ́ sí àwọn aláṣẹ ìjọba. Yàtọ̀ sí yẹn a ti lọ síbòmíì ojútò àgbàrá tó ń fi àmójútó yẹn ní ojú odò Lákàtà ní ìlú Ẹ̀rìn Ọ̀ṣun ẹ má bínú tí n bá pè dáadáa ojú odò yìí wọ́n ní ó ń fẹ́ àmójútó gẹ́gẹ́ bí àlàyé tí wọ́n ṣe sí wa wọ́n ṣe fún wa pé àwọn fẹ́ fi tó ìjọba létí nípa ìṣòro àgbàrá ẹ̀kún omi tó máa ń ní wọ́n lára ní gbogbo agbègbè yìí wọ́n ní ọjọ́ sátidé ọjọ́ 26 oṣù kẹwàá ọdún 2024 wọ́n ní òjò alágbára kan rọ̀ wọ́n ní látàrí àwọn ojú ọ̀nà tó mímọ́ ń gbà ìyẹn Lákàtà lójú odò Lákàtà ìyẹn drainage wọ́n ló ti ní akùdé ó ti bàjẹ́ mo lérò wípé onáà ẹlẹ́ ń wò lójú ìwòran yìí wọ́n ló ti bàjẹ́ torí eléyìí omi ọ̀gbàbẹ̀ mọ́ ọ̀tọ̀ níbi tó mi ń gbà wọ́n á ń fẹ́ kí ìjọba bá wọn ṣe ohun tó tọ́ wọ́n nítorí àwọn ilé tó wà ní agbègbè ibi tódò yìí wà wọ́n ti ń fara kásá wọ́n ti ń fara kó ẹ dákun ẹ̀yin aláṣẹ ìjọba ẹ bá wọn wá ìgbésẹ̀ iléeṣẹ́ fọ́rọ̀ iṣẹ́ òde ẹ bá wọn pa kìtì mọ́lẹ̀ lórí agbègbè náà. Ibòmíì tí a tún fẹ́ fi hàn yín tá a ti fi hàn yín sẹ́yìn òun náà ni ojú ọ̀nà tó ń fi àmójútó agbègbè Biket lọ sí ọjà Ọ̀tà Ẹfun ìlú Òṣogbo lágbègbè yìí wà ní ìpínlẹ̀ Ọ̀ṣun òun lẹ̀ ń wò yìí wọ́n ní ojú ọ̀nà wọ́n ní fi àmójútó kán bá wọn ṣe ojú ọ̀nà náà ohun táwọn náà lò òun lójú ọ̀nà lára ojú ọ̀sìn rèé kò sí bí wọn ò ṣe ń ṣe ibi tí ọmọ gbà ọjà ń bẹ̀ ó jẹ́ bó ṣe jẹ́ láti ọ̀dọ̀ ẹni tó fi ṣọwọ́ sí wa Abdulkabir Arówólò wọ́n láwọn rawọ́ ẹ̀bẹ̀ sí ìjọba gómìnà Adémọ́lá Adélékè àwọn tó jẹ́ ọmọ ikọ̀ wọn àti àwọn míì tí ọ̀rọ̀ bá kàn kán bá wọn wá nǹkan Musa lóògùn. Lára bí tá a ti fi hàn yín ibi ẹlẹ́ẹ̀kẹrin tá a ti fi hàn yín lọ́jọ́ tòní lórí ètò Ojú Ẹlẹ́rìí òun náà ni àwọn agbègbè tó nílò àmójútó àwọn agbègbè tó nílò ojú ọ̀nà agbègbè tó nílò ojú ọ̀nà òun lẹ́ ń wò lójú ìwòran yín yìí o tẹ́ ẹ bá rí ojú ọ̀nà yìí ọlọ́kọ̀ tó bá ilé rì sáàárín yìí tọ́ kọ́ṣà mọ́ fọkàn gbàdúrà pé kóun ó kú ń bẹ̀ láyọ̀ ni àtọlọ́kọ̀ o àtọlọ́kadà o àwọn èèyàn yìí ni wọ́n fojú winá wọ́n fojú rí pọ̀npọ̀nà yẹn ní ojú ọ̀nà náà wọ́n sì ní ìyà àjẹkúdórógbó làwọn ń jẹ àwọn ojú ọ̀nà yìí díẹ̀ délé ń bẹ o ṣùgbọ́n gbogbo àwọn tí ojú ọ̀nà yìí kàn tó gbèrú ó ní àwọn agbègbè bíi Olúdé Ilẹ̀ Ìdáǹdè Ọba Road gbogbo àwọn agbègbè yìí ìjọba àbílẹ̀ Ọlọ́run dá ló wà ìyẹn ní ìlú Òṣogbo wọn láwọn ń fẹ́ ìdáhùn àti ìdásí láti ọ̀dọ̀ ìjọba ìpínlẹ̀ Ọ̀ṣun Adéjàre Tajudeen àwọn ni wọ́n mọ̀ ké gbàjáre tí wọ́n pe àkíyèsí àwọn aláṣẹ ìjọba kí wọ́n gbà wọ́n kalẹ̀ kí wọ́n mọ̀ jẹ́ kí yóò jẹ wọ́n o ó jẹ́ bó ṣe jẹ́ láti agbègbè Olúdé Ilẹ̀ Ìdáǹdè àti Ọba Road gbogbo agbègbè yìí ló jẹ́ gbajúgbajà ní bí ìṣáná ẹlẹ́ta ní ìlú Òṣogbo ó dáa eléyìí tá a fi hàn yín kẹ́yìn ní orí ètò Ojú Ẹlẹ́rìí òun náà ní iléèwé tó ń fi àmójútó lemọ́lemọ́ ni wọ́n ti láti ń ṣe àfihàn iléèwé yìí lemọ́lemọ́ láti ń gba ìpè lọ́tí ọ̀dọ̀ àwọn èèyàn gbogbo àwọn ọmọ bíbí ìlú Ìkìrun wọ́n ń rawọ́ ẹ̀bẹ̀ síjọba gbogbo àwọn tó jẹ́ olùgbé Ìkìrun àwọn tó ti gba iléèwé ìkọjá lọ́nà kan àbọ̀nà míì wọ́n ní kíjọba ìpínlẹ̀ Ọ̀ṣun dákun mọ́ wo iléèwé yìí níran torí ẹgbẹ̀lẹ́gbẹ̀ owó ni wọ́n fi kọ́ iléèwé yìí ńgbà náà nǹkan àmúyangàn ló dẹ̀ jẹ́ nígbà tí wọ́n kọ́ ní ọdún náà lọ́hùn lọ́wọ́ ìjọba gómìnà tẹ́lẹ̀ rí Rauf Arẹ́gbẹ́ṣọlá. Ẹ wo gbogbo òrùlé iléèwé yìí o, ẹ wo gbogbo àwọn àyíká, gbogbo àwọn fèrèsé àti àwọn nǹkan míì, gbogbo ògiri gan ńkọ́, ó ní kán máa wí lọ ni nípa tòun, kọ́lọ́hún máa ṣàánú fún wa. Ẹni tó fi àwòrán ìṣọwọ́ sí wa ni wọ́n sọ lórúkọ gbogbo àwọn tó jẹ́ akẹ́kọ̀ọ́ tó ti gba iléèwé ìkọjá àwọn ìkàn. Ọ̀gbẹ́ni Adébáyọ̀ Ọláwálé, àwọn ni wọ́n mọ̀ fi eléyìí ṣọwọ́ sí wa o. Lórúkọ gbogbo ọmọ bíbí ìlú Ìkìrun níjọba ìbílẹ̀ Ìfẹ́lódùn ní ìpínlẹ̀ Ọ̀ṣun. Ó ní àwòrán tó gbẹ̀yìn tí wọ́n fi ṣọwọ́ sí wa ní orí ètò Ojú Ẹlẹ́rìí. Ẹ ṣeun ẹ̀yin èèyàn wa tẹ́ ẹ bá wa wò lọ́jọ́ tòní. Ẹ̀yin tẹ́ ẹ ṣẹ̀ṣẹ̀ ń tan móhùnmáwòrán yẹn ṣé gan ni. Àwa tá a wá jọ bẹ̀rẹ̀ lórí ètò ẹ ṣé gan ni o. Àdúpẹ́ gidigidi o. Àjọṣepọ̀ wa kò ní bàjẹ́. Ẹ̀yin láàmọ̀ bá àwa náà láti mọ̀ wá. Ẹ ṣeun. Ẹ má wàá gbàgbé tẹ́yin náà bá fẹ́ fi àwòrán nǹkan tó ń jẹ yín níyà. Ohun tẹ́ ẹ nílò, ohun tó ń fi yín làkàlàkà tó ń fi yín lápè ní àdúgbò yín. Ẹ̀yẹn ṣáà mú fóònù yín, ẹ̀rọ ayàwòrán ìbánisọ̀rọ̀ tó lè yàwòrán dáadáa. Ẹ mú ẹ dàbù rẹ̀, ẹ má ṣe gbé lónígbọ̀rọ̀ o. Ẹ dàbù rẹ̀ báyìí. Bẹ́ẹ̀ bá ti dàbù rẹ̀ báyìí, ẹ ya àwòrán ohun tó ń jẹ yín níyà. Ẹ má wá jẹ́ kí àwòrán ojú bí ìṣẹ́jú méjì àbí mẹ́ta lọ. Bẹ́ẹ̀ bá ti ya àwòrán náà, ẹ fi ṣọwọ́ sí wa kó tó di ọjọ́ Ajé. Ojú òpó tẹ́ ẹ fi ṣọwọ́ sí ni 0803 865 1049. Lẹ́ǹkan sí 0803 865 1049. Àwọn ojú òpó lẹ tí ń wò ní ojú móhùnmáwòrán yín, ẹ máa fi ṣọwọ́ síbẹ̀. Ẹ jẹ́ kó mọ́lẹ̀ kétékété. Ẹ má wá gbàgbé, ẹ fi orúkọ yín náà àti ibi tẹ́ ti ń fi àtẹ̀jíṣẹ́ yẹn ṣọwọ́ papọ̀ pẹ̀lú àwòrán tẹ́ fi ṣọwọ́. Yálà àwòrán fídíò, ìyẹn fọ́nrán fídíò àbí àwòrán fọ́tò. Èyíkéyìí tẹ́ bá fi ṣọwọ́, a máa gbé jáde, a máa ṣàfihàn rẹ̀ fún àwọn aláṣẹ ìjọba àti àwọn tí ọ̀rọ̀ bá kàn. Ẹ ṣeun tẹ́ bá wa darapọ̀ mọ́ wa lórí ètò Ojú Ẹlẹ́rìí lẹ́ẹ̀kan sí lọ́jọ́ tòní. Ìkànnì Western Spring Television, ìkànnì àádọ́wà tó wà lórí Star Times DTT ní ìpínlẹ̀ Ọ̀ṣun ló ti dé sí ojú ìwòran yìí. Àjọṣepọ̀ wa kò ní bàjẹ́. Mo dúpẹ́ lọ́wọ́ gbogbo àwọn tó ti kọ́wọ́ tì mí. Bí gbẹ́kẹ́ ti ń kọ́wọ́ ti lé, tí gba aláàmú kọ́wọ́ ti ògiri gbígbẹ. Lórí ètò Ojú Ẹlẹ́rìí, ẹ ṣé púpọ̀ ẹ̀yin ayàwòrán, mo mọ rírì. Àwọn tó jẹ́ amójú ẹ̀rọ, ẹ ṣé ẹ kú àdúrótì. Gbogbo àwọn ikọ̀ ètò Ojú Ẹlẹ́rìí, àjọṣepọ̀ wa kò ní bàjẹ́. Orúkọ tèmi ò tí ì yí padà. Adéyẹmí Ọlábọ̀dé lorúkọ tèmi ń jẹ́, tí mò ń kí wa pé títí di ọ̀sẹ̀ tó ń bọ̀ tá a máa pàdé lórí àkọ́tún ètò Ojú Ẹlẹ́rìí. Ẹ rántí pé ká mú olówó lọ́rẹ̀ẹ́ ní ìlú Ọ̀rẹ́ kó pé kó tani lọ́rẹ o. Ọwọ́ ẹni ni kì í tan ní jẹ. Ó di lọ́sẹ̀ tó ń bọ̀. Ó dàbọ̀.
Turn it up! It's the Wild Wild West, and Western Spring Television is pulling out all the stops to make sure that you don't miss out on every of the fun and happenings around you. Yup, we've got you covered because your girls got all the juiciest tidbits and entertainment news from around the world. Cross over to the chocolatey side of entertainment. Join me, Chocolate Cassie, on Eccentric as we take you into every bit of the juiciest news, fashion, music, movie updates, and other trending conversations. Together on the show, we'll get personal with your favorite celebrities via phone call, Zoom, or even live here in the studio. Eccentric will be shown on your TV screen on Western Spring Television, channel 190, only on Star Times.
Funmilayo Ransome Kuti was an educationist and advocate of women's rights. She was recognized for her vitriolic comments against colonial policy of taxation as it affected the Nigerian women. Bere, as fondly addressed by her women followers, Funmilayo championed the initiation of universal adult suffrage, which gave an unprecedented leeway for women to contest elective offices and power to exercise voting rights. Married to a foremost educationist and teacher, Israel Oladotun Ransome Kuti, the first president of Nigeria Union of Teachers, Funmilayo Ransome Kuti was the mother of children who inherited her spirit of activism. Olufela Abe Ololari, the former regent. She was the first female student of Abeokuta Grammar School and the first female to own and drive a car in Nigeria. The award recipient of Member of Order of Nigeria MON and Lenin Peace Prize, was born on 25th October 1900 and was killed on 13th April 1978 by rampaging road soldiers in Lagos. Western Spring Television identifies Funmilayo Ransome Kuti as a watershed character in history. Western Spring Television, as it is.
You made it. No kidding. Way before you knew it. No matter what school of thought say, even though the fastest and most capable sperms reach the ovum first, it is the egg that has the final say on which sperm fertilizes it. You made it, and that's the big deal. Joining this conversation is yet another proof of your triumph. Pardon my manners. First of all, introduction. Hello, my name is Temitope Ajijola Ola. I'm not a motivational speaker, not on the set. I anchor Western Spring Television's flagship health program, Spring Clinic, where we delve into everything health and well-being so we can help you not only to feel better, but also bring you information that will help you reduce the risk of diseases, lengthen your lifespan, save you money, and benefits the environment. Our own air medic, seasoned family physician with over a decade's worth of experience under his sleeve, Dr. Ayodeji Ogungbemi, is on set, as always, to take us through today's discuss. You guessed right, we're treating the reproductive system, organs, and process today. Dr. Sir, let's get the ball rolling.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon.
Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure always.
I want to thank everybody for joining management. Somehow, it's a topic I've been trying to run away from.
Why? It's a topic everybody wants to know because it concerns everybody.
Exactly, and that's why I've been trying to run away from. Because reproductive system, it's a very big system, and it touches everyone. Everyone, even the boy, the girl wants to hear something. Oh, reproductive system.
Yes.
Like that. So, well, let's get the ball rolling, and as our practices, be as simple as possible, so that you can get one or two things from what you're discussing. And I really want to say I can't exhaust all the details, because just like every other organ system talked about, this is an area of specialty that after graduating from medical school, somebody will spend 5 years studying this alone. Not even just this, because this talks about both the female and the male. So they spend like 5 to 6 years on the female, and then 5 to 6 years on the male. So what we are talking about today is the combination of two specialties. So we have the obstetrics and gynecology, majoring on particularly the female, and then the urologist. Urology.
Did you hear that?
Urology. Majoring on that of the male. So we'll just try to mention some key things, key points. So what's the reproductive system? What is the reproductive system? It's just like every other system, but this time around, I like to say a very delicate and intricately connected vis-a-vis even timing, organ structures, and the physiology is very interesting because it deals with time and a lot of things can affect it. And that's why the issue of infertility remains a big topic in the world. Even despite all interventions, we'll have some cases where one may not really be able to have explanations. So let's look at it. The system is divided into two. You have the male reproductive system, you have the female reproductive system. So let's look at the male first. The male reproductive system, let's talk about the organs involved, or parts of it, anatomically. The very common one, we have the testes. Every male should have two. So, but there could be problems where some may have one, but it's a problem. That is meant to be two. And without the testes, there's no way we can have the sperms, because the testes are produced in the sperm. No, the sperms are produced in the. Now, I mentioned intricately and delicately. I deliberately chose those words because a lot of factors can affect sperm production in a normal testis.
Okay.
I mentioned that the testis could be abnormal. That's one. But let's assume it's a normal testis. Other factors could affect it. Get to those points later. But we need to know testis is important. Then we have the epididymis. I'm not sure I've heard that.
We have. I have. Have you? I have.
So the epididymis, these are like just connecting tubes here and there that will connect the testis to the various ducts. When we say ducts, we mean tubes. So epididymis, we have the vas deferens, we have the seminal vesicle, we have the prostate, and all these have their contribution to reproduction. So if one has a problem amongst these 5 or 6 components that I mentioned, then there will be a problem. Because I chose to take it gradually. So when somebody has an infertility problem, it's not just about the testes. testis is just one of those. So, and then we have environmental factors, we have other factors around that. But I need to say this before we move on. People shouldn't be afraid. Rather, an advocate of comprehensive healthcare checkup. Because with the comprehensive healthcare checkups, even right from being a baby, there should be a comprehensive healthcare checkup where things are assessed properly. One of the problems we have with testicles is that it is possible that while a child is growing up, the testes may not descend properly. And there's a way it has been designed by God. It's such that the testes must descend because the temperature of the human body will not allow for sperm production. Like the temperature it will denature the proteins necessary from sperm production. So the testes must come out, must descend. So we have children where either both testes didn't descend properly, which means that they have become infertile even before they mature, grow. So that's about that. I deliberately wrote down some things because it's a big game today. So let's talk about the females. I don't dwell too much on the females. Coming to the different problems I share with you part of it. The females, we have 5 major components. We have the ovaries. People know about that very well. Normally, a woman should have 2. That's what they call eggs. And from your introduction, you said the ovary would determine which sperm cell will. So the ovaries are important. It is in ovaries that we have production of the eggs. We call it eggs. We call it another egg. Then we have the fallopian tube. Fallopian tube, it's like an outstretched arm, and the arm, the hand part, is overlying the ovary, so that whenever there's a release of an egg, it goes through the fallopian tube into the uterus. Yes, it goes into it. So the fallopian tube is like a connecting door, so that the egg, it traps the egg. As egg is released, it traps it that this is where you should pass. Become useful. If you go elsewhere, you may not become useful. And there's an interesting thing about the egg, the human egg, that makes it very different from that of the male sperm production, is that the sperm production will continually, is a continuous process. So sperms are produced in their mammalian every time. Whereas the eggs are released once per menstrual cycle. So the egg, one, is released per menstrual cycle. So we can understand the intricate balance of this for the women. That's for the egg. Then we have the fallopian tube. Then we have the uterus. The uterus is a muscular sac. And the way I see it, one of the functions of the uterus, or the major function, is to allow for fertilization and then implantation and development of the baby till maturity. That duration should be for about 40 weeks. People say 9 months, but we use weeks because weeks will give you a more accurate time. It's expected to be between 38 to like 41 completed weeks, but let's say 40 weeks, plus or minus. So that's for the uterus. Then we have the cervix and we have the vagina. So the cervix is an extension of the uterus. And the cervix has its own interesting function. The cervix, by its function, though it's serving as the mouth of the uterus, it also determines if there will be fertilization or not. If the uterus, by the different hormone system, balance or imbalance, menstrual system, and the likes, the cervix would determine if a sperm cell will enter the uterus or not. You know, it usually has a mucus plug, and that mucus plug is usually acidic, such that sperm cells will not be able to naturally pass. So, but whenever there's ovulation, you know, that is in every female's cycle, there's always a time that the ovary is released, which is the time, as it were, suitable for fertilization. It is at that time that the cervix condition will change to allow sperm cells to pass through. So you can see that aside from the structures, aside from the physiology and function of each organ, there's a delicate balance in timing. You get my, so one cannot say I can get pregnant anytime. And included in this delicate balance is that there are other factors that can affect the timing. Other factors can also affect the condition of either the eggs produced or the sperm cell produced, or even their production at all. And some of these conditions will be from in utero, that is, while they are yet in their mother's womb. There could be congenital problems and there could be natural problems along the way. So let's just go. So we have the ovaries for the female, we have the fallopian tubes, we have the uterus, we have the cervix, and then we have the vagina. Those are components of the female reproductive tract, as it were. So let me just keep this in. At this point, we can now come into the reproductive process. Now, the reproductive process, which is the main goal of the reproductive system, which is to procreate. That's the main goal of the process, to procreate, so that there will be, should I use the word sustenance of our species?
Perfect.
Sustenance of our species on the earth. That's the main goal of the reproductive system. So let's now look at the process. Number one is that it starts from gamete production. Let me say gamete production, that is reproduction of the necessary cells, sperm cells and the ovaries. So we call this gamete production. They are gametes, male gamete, female gamete. You can call it male cell, female cell. You know, it's important. And this production itself, so many things can affect it. Hormones regulate it. These hormones are also subject to timing. Environmental factors can affect these hormones vis-a-vis the time they will be released. Drugs can affect the release of these hormones. Infections and disease conditions can affect the release of these hormones. So we can see that it's, you can imagine why I said I tried to run away from topic because it's such a very vast topic indeed. So the gamete production is necessary. After the gamete production, the next most important step is the fertilization. That is how to bring the male gamete with the female gamete come together. And a lot of factors are also involved at that point. But basically, there must be adequate sexual intercourse, so which will also affect, that in itself is another area.
Okay, so we could need like how many weeks to extensively talk about? Let's just keep
moving.
Yes.
So then the fertilization. So that's about the fertilization. Talked about from intercourse. So it's not just about intercourse. Are the sperm cells produced properly? Are they okay? Are they healthy? You know, is the egg healthy? Is the sperm cell healthy? Do we have enough sperm cells? And the likes. Then the sperm cells, even if it is healthy, is it coming at an appropriate time that the cervix will be able to allow it to pass? Are you getting my point? Is the sperm cells need to now get through into the uterus. Then adequate timing, the ovary must have been released. The ovary must have been trapped by the membrane of the fallopian tube. The ovary must have passed successfully through the fallopian tube. Now, the timing is important. Timing is important at every stage, because if there's fertilization at the wrong place, there'll be a problem for the woman. Fertilization at the wrong, for example, ectopic gestation. Gestation just simply means pregnancy. Ectopic simply means outside the normal place. So the uterus is where God has designed for it. That's why the uterus is a muscular sac. Some muscles, you know, are there. So that once fertilization is done, then implantation is the next thing. Because the eggs, the zygote produced, when the two meet, we need nourishment, we need nutrition. So that's why they stick to the wall of the uterus, and then they grow from there to form the placenta. Now, if the fertilization occurs, let's assume that the egg does not move fast enough through the fallopian tube, and the sperm cell goes through the fallopian tube and meets the egg on the ovary, that means pregnancy will happen on the ovary. You know, that's the problem. Or if the egg is not moving fast enough and the sperm cells meet it in the in the fallopian tube, it means pregnancy will happen in the fallopian tube. And we all know that the fallopian tube is a small tube. So as the zygote increases in size due to growth, it will rupture. It will tear off the fallopian tube. So when you hear things like ectopic pregnancy, that's what it simply means. That is, the pregnancy has come, but it's now in the wrong place. And the wrong place will not be able to sustain it most times to cause damage. And that's why when there's an ectopic pregnancy, doctors have to run into it's an emergency. Because once it grows to a point, and the point is not created for it, just like you can assume if there's pregnancy on the ovary, that means the pregnancy is outside the uterus. Nothing can sustain it there. Though we have some wonders of the world, though. You know, but let's leave those wonders. Let's talk about normal. If the pregnancy is achieved inside the fallopian tube, just a matter of time, it will tear off the fallopian tube because it's growing, it's enlarging in size. But it will tear off, and the woman will bleed to death. And the pregnancy will die once the woman is dead. You know, so it has to be in the uterus. So you can see that the timing of the ovary, the timing of the release of the spermatozoa is important. The timing about when they meet is also important.
Okay, so let's begin to take the questions as we go. What happens in the case of this ectopic pregnancy? Is there a way doctors can remove, I don't know what word would be appropriate, but remove the pregnancy and implant it where it's supposed to be?
Well, number one is that we have a lot of advances in medical science, whether it's medical technology or technology in science. So there are different things that can be done. However, many times these women come in. You know, in this part of the world, because it's a global platform. But let me say this part of the world, West Africa, Nigeria, Southwest Nigeria, a lot of women believe that even when they are sure that pregnancy has been achieved, they will not go for antenatal until a certain number of weeks. It's just a belief on the streets. When it's on the street, it's everywhere. And I try to tell them, it's the way you're smiling.
You're right.
It's so wrong. It's so wrong. The teaching is that in fact, ideally, before you get pregnant, you should have been visiting your doctor because there's something called preconception care, where the woman must have been assessed and deemed fit for conception.
Oh, yeah. I need you to go over that.
Now, the ideal is that before conception, it's not just about I've gotten pregnant, so I'm waiting till 12th week or 3rd month or 4th month. No, that's gross error. The ideal is that even before pregnancy, somebody is married and she and the husband have agreed, let's have a baby. From that time, the person should visit the hospital where she would be given preconception care, before conception care. And the goal of preconception care is to have the woman fit for pregnancy. If there are conditions that can affect their achieving pregnancy, those conditions are dealt with there. You know, so aside from, even if there are no problems, then we are sure that, okay, let's keep this woman fit to achieve pregnancy and to carry pregnancy to term. So preconception care is the ideal. So that once you now achieve pregnancy, then we move into antenatal care. Just it's a continuum, as it were. So, but what's on the street is that until you get 12th week, or 3rd month, 4th month, and when it is showing, you know, and these are wrong things, very wrong. So by that time, preconception care, I would have known if whatever problems are there, it would have been addressed. Preventive care would also have been administered. If the woman had to be, maybe we have to check her status, hepatitis status, all these things are assessed at PCV level, everything. So once pregnancy is achieved, the person should also get to the hospital. Pregnancy is achieved, we know your normal vital signs, we know everything in from preconception care. So we'll keep monitoring, and if there is slight change that is not expected, we need to intervene on time. You get, but a lot of times people come in when the ectopic pregnancy has caused trouble. She's now pregnant, and a very common symptom is that they faint. You know, has a fainting spell. We call it a spell, fainting, or sometimes even bleeding PV. So there's a teaching that says that once you have a woman of reproductive age and the person goes unconscious, that's what people say faint. You have to check for pregnancy because one of the commonest causes, and it's an emergency. So you can't say faint today, so I'm going to hospital tomorrow. The person may not be able to achieve that. That is, maybe may have died for them. So there are a lot of interventions that could be if the person comes on time. A lot of medical interventions, a lot of surgical interventions, either to place it properly or to end the pregnancy itself. It's an individualized care, really, and that's where medicine is today. We can't say this is what we will do. It depends on you, the circumstances, and the conditions around that time that will determine what procedure will be done. So that's about ectopic pregnancy, and it's an emergency. So after fertilization, we move into pregnancy. So pregnancy, antenatal care, the fertilized egg becomes zygote, must implant in the uterus. Now, the uterus itself, based on hormonal changes, would also have been prepared for pregnancy. The uterus is not always prepared for pregnancy. That is, the uterus will not always accept pregnancy. Part of preparation is that due to hormonal changes, the endometrium, which is the inner lining of the uterus, would have been greatly enriched. Let me use that word. Would have been thickened, made more succulent, increased blood supply, expecting that something is coming to come and eat.
Preparing a banquet, so to speak.
Preparing a banquet, so to speak. So makes it so conducive for implantation. So that egg plus the sperm that has fused together, we now rest on it and start to feed from it. So it forms the placenta and then the umbilical cord. So as the baby keeps growing, this now becomes more differentiated. You have the placenta, you have the uterus, the placenta, umbilical cord, then the baby. You know, so that's that. Then the childbirth. So I divided into the reproductive process, gamete production, fertilization, pregnancy, childbirth. When the baby is okay, after an average of 40 weeks, it will be less than 40 weeks, 37 completed weeks, or 41 completed weeks. That's the range. But by the time it's 40 weeks, baby is mature enough. Then we have the uterus. You know, science is wonderful. God is just an interesting. When it's time, the uterus that has been accommodating, you know, stretching to take baby, will start to contract to push out the baby. That it's time.
You're an unwelcome, like overstayed. You've overstayed your welcome.
Come and go. Come and leave. So there are occasional. Initially, there will be occasional contractions here and there. We call it Braxton Hicks contraction. Just to me, it's like sensitizing both the baby and the mother. It's close to time. Oh, you know, there's a adage that says that if you are given a visitor the head of yam, or is it the head of yam or the lower part of yam, you are telling the visitor that it's time to go. So the contraction that they just
say, quick notice.
Quick notice. I give you 2 more weeks to evict. And then a time really comes. The contraction becomes strong. You know, then the cervix will start to dilate. The cervix that have closed up all these wires, preventing the baby from dropping, will now start to relax. So you would have been hearing things like the dilation is 1 cm, the dilation is 2 cm.
Yes.
You know, yes. The cervix will dilate to accommodate the passage of the baby. Now, that in itself, that process is also a very intricately delicate process, because the passage of the baby, it depends on the position of the baby, the size and the weight of the baby, the condition of the uterus, the condition of the cervix. So many things are there. So the birth process is a very delicate process.
Hmm.
Wow. Can I continue? Because
Yes, sir.
so I've divided that into reproductive process, garment production, fertilization, pregnancy, and childbirth. And each one is a whole topic that we can keep talking about. So even the childbirth, which is a very visible one, as it were, it shouldn't happen, but it does happen that things can happen during pregnancy, and that the mother has complications, or the baby has complications, or the womb has complications. A lot of this is due to a lot of factors. I've mentioned poor antenatal care. Even people themselves don't, to me, I think they don't take themselves seriously. They assume that things can happen. Yes, people can deliver, I understand, without much problem. But the one that will have problem,
You would never know.
but a lot of these cause problems are preventable. So people should go for antenatal on time. Go for antenatal care on time. In fact, I'm advocating using this part of the day. Preconception care is important. Very, very. It will prevent a lot of unwanted issues during pregnancy. You know, there are conditions that could have been treated before the baby comes. But if it has not been addressed, then it will not be a problem during, it will be more of an issue during pregnancy, because you're now thinking, how should we handle it? And some will also affect the baby after delivery. So
Well,
that's on that.
Doctor, I'll need to hold you on that. Isn't it such a blessing that Doctor is here today to talk about this reproductive organ? Well, we'll be taking a quick breather right now, but when we get back, Doctor is going to take it up from right here where he's living.
These